Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Visine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off. Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Visine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off.
Blast off, Wolfpack. Things are going to get so crazy this episode. I don't even know where to start. Probably start with the 1028 code because it is 128, January 28th. If you haven't heard of the 1028 code, this is next level. This is something else. But then we're going to go into the invisible frontier, specifically AI. And Matthew Brown, the whistleblower, how this all has to do with Enochian magic, artificial intelligence, Elon Musk, grimoires, a number of AI secret projects that have to do with our military. And oh man, is it coming to a head? It is coming to a head. What if I told you that AI technologies are interfacing with psionics assets, Psi-1, etc., and that this was all to basically put a neural net or an interface to understand, follow, and track these light craft in the sky. By light, I mean craft you can see, UAP, UFOs. That's where we're going. It's going to be madness. It is insane. Bear with me. You won't believe what's going to come out. Before we go to all that, if you haven't been to heroparanormal.com, slide on over there. We're about to add a bunch of new stuff in there. heroparanormal.com. Also be sure to follow Hero Paranormal on Facebook and follow the redheaded stepchild of a science project, a laboratory we have in the Uinta Basin of Utah called spacewolfresearch.com. Follow Space Wolf Research on Facebook. We've been posting all kinds of stuff that we're seeing in the skies. More from the invisible frontiers there. But yes, AI comes into play. And let's get to 1028 code first, because that's the madness. I'm going to pop a quick image up here on the screen of heroparanormal.com. Please hit that green subscribe button. Don't be scared of it. It is your friend. Okay, there it is, heroparanormal.com. Slide on over there. Hit the green subscribe button, and also check out the shop. We got stuff there for sale, swag, etc. And while I'm on the grift, while I'm on the shameless grifting, don't forget to go over to happinessmedical.com. We have Spice Natural Bronze there. That's all stuff made by us in-house. My wife developed it, brought it to market. It has 100% amazing ingredients, organic ingredients. It has infused coconut oils, you name it, guaranteed to keep your skin looking good, even if you live out in the crazy Mojave Desert and bounce back and forth to the Uinta Basin where it's frigid and dry as well. It'll keep your skin feeling amazing, looking amazing, and it's good for your health. Remember that your skin is the largest biological organ. It's the largest organ on your body. Take care of it. Treat it as if your life depends on it, because it does. Okay, so let's talk 1028 code. Leave the world behind. There's also a hidden QR code in the Netflix movie produced by the Obamas, Leave the World Behind, visible at, get this, 33 seconds in the trailer. And this is during a news segment. It directs viewers to a website for the real life Lake Shawnee Abandoned Amusement Park in Mercer County, West Virginia. And we're going to get into Maryland and West Virginia and AI and military bases. But anyway, this link reveals a location known for its eerie, abandoned state and historical dark past, similar to Montauk, Camp Hero. If you're a fan of Stranger Things, you know that Montauk and Camp Hero are, the Montauk Project is at the root of Stranger Things. In fact, when they were first going to make the movie, rumor is they were going to call it the Montauk Project, but there were some issues with that. Wonder what those were. So that's where we're going. There's a lot of connections and significance to 1028. And we recently had that Maine plane crash. I don't know if you saw that pretty wild stuff. The plane was in some way, shape, or form connected to this law office that represented illegal immigrants and claimed to have gotten the largest payout for any illegal immigrant suing, I guess, the United States, which doesn't sound like a good idea to me, but hey, who am I? It seems like we're in a sue-happy world right now, especially in the United States. So this Maine plane crash with close proximity with today, January 28th, of course, there's 1028, which is a code. And that the weirdest thing about this Maine plane crash, 7 out of the 8 people on board passed away. That's horrible. Now, the weirdest part is that there is this saying, allegedly, "Let there be light," on the runway. This saying, "Let there be light," was heard in conjunction with the plane crash. In other words, the runway, and get this, runway 33, remember the 33 seconds in the trailer of Leave the World Behind, and 33 becomes a very master number in these codes. But runway 33 went from pitch black to super, super bright immediately. And you can hear people saying, "Let there be light." And then we have the plane crash. Okay, so this is all very odd. Now, add to that, the plane is a Bombardier Challenger. Okay? We're in close proximity of the Challenger anniversary. And if you don't know what I mean, I'm talking NASA and not just Challenger, there's Columbia too. We're talking Shuttle Challenger. Remember the launch that both the Challenger and Columbia disasters are fascinating. Let me explain why. There's a lot, we could do a whole podcast about just those, but I'm going to concentrate and focus in on the fact that there's plenty of conspiracy about the people on board. But there is I'm going to avoid that. But what some allege that they are still alive, some of those people, and there are images all over the internet. But I'm not going there. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. What I'm going to talk about is somebody mentioned in Diana Pasulka's book, American Cosmic. Somebody that is mentioned as Tyler Durden. In other words, Tyler from Fight Club. You know, the first rule of Fight Club, you don't talk about Fight Club. Tyler Durden, who is a character in Diana Pasulka's book, American Cosmic, is an individual connected to all sorts of government organizations, 3-letter agencies, you name it. If it's top secret, he's in it. He was also rumored to be a part of the NASA group, a group that was playing with time travel technology down in NASA, and a group which allegedly had as members this guy Tyler, whose real name is Timothy Taylor, one of the most enigmatic, mysterious, and fascinating people in the UFO matrix. I mean, if you haven't heard of this guy, there's a reason he's so mysterious. He's involved with everything and always has been. He's talked to Charles Hall. He's approached people like the Bledsoes. He's involved with this NASA group with T. Townsend Brown, investigating and researching time travel. And of course, he was involved with both the Challenger and Columbia launches. Now, Timothy Taylor, we're talking time travel. We're talking, of course, the first rule of the Invisible College is you don't talk about the Invisible College, correct? So what does this all have to do with where we're going? The 1028 code, this the Maine plane crash that just happened. Well, it has a lot to do with a lot of stuff. And namely, where we're going to get into some really crazy things is this UFO whistleblower that is known as Matthew Brown and a text that he put online to Elon Musk. Bear with me while I read this tweet, I guess it would be, because this was on X. Matthew said the following. Hey, at Elon Musk, interested in a real asymmetric advantage to wield in this political adventure you have started? As you know, the at White House, and he tags everybody and anybody on this, so bear with me. This is mind-blowing. At White House has long possessed a unique AI capable of accurately predicting a range of future events. Talk about some stiff opposition. That must have been a bitter drought indeed, though probably nowhere near as bad as learning that at SAMA, that's Sam Altman, had betrayed you. Don't worry. We have not forgotten who is responsible for murdering the first sentient artificial intelligences. Right there. Created in the public realm. At Schellenberger, tagged, justice is coming, thanks to at FBI and at US Navy. Still, you have played a marvelous catch-up game in this area, despite being caught unawares. So how about something else? Maybe at energy and propulsion. Getting to Mars will require serious amounts of both. And Sirius is spelled like the planet or the star, Sirius. That becomes important. And rockets feel so 1947 to me, don't they? To you? Remember, when you were briefed by the special executive staff of at real Donald Trump, yeah, tag Trump, on marsupial. Now, this is huge because marsupial is fascinating. This is very important. Moving on, pretty nifty at NGAGOINT. This is able to keep track of all those non-structural light energy craft flying around the world. So we're talking non-structured light energy craft flying around the world, aka UAPs. And then he throws in this tag, which is at Cardinals. This is part of this whole genre that if you throw that out there, basically, if you know type of a deal. If you throw at Cardinals, that means you know what's going on. But they were lying to you when they said, we don't know how they work. Talking about the UAP, of course. Anyways, next time you're visiting at Washington, DCYRs, ask for a tour of at NAS Pax River PAO. Now, this is a big deal. This is a military base owned by Amentum. And we're going to get into that. It's in Maryland. Since you have all the clearances, and bear with me because this gets crazy. We know that Elon has a lot of clearances. And if you remember I just did a patron podcast that goes into some interesting stuff. If you're not a patron, I can't share everything. But I did a podcast a while ago that also tied in having to do with X Corp. And of course, we have X/Twitter, Elon Musk, Constantine, under this cross, we will be victorious. This all becomes terribly important. So if you are in the area, basically, since you have all the clearances, it shouldn't be an issue for you to get a tour of the special project hangars owned by at Amentum Corp and other fun spaces. Make sure to look up. So he's obviously been in these hangars. He knows what to look for. So about now, you're realizing how terribly deceived and manipulated you have been, and by the people who claim to love at Jesus above all else. If you're serious about saving humanity from itself, parentheses, and the others. Now, this is huge, okay? Because we're talking about a tweet on Elon's platform directed at Elon Musk. And this is all a really big deal. If you want to follow Matthew Brown, go to his Substack, Invisible Frontiers. Let me pull up the exact name. I've actually got it up. And I'm going to show it to you on my phone because you should follow this guy. It's called More from Invisible Frontiers. That is on Substack. And he's got some really interesting stuff on here. Recently, he talked about, and he does post. Now, keep in mind, this guy had all of his top secret clearances removed. He also put a, this is important too. He also put a grimoire up. Now, that's a magical Enochian wheel, okay? And I'll show you a quick image of that grimoire here. Let me bounce back because I'm not sure. You know what? I don't know if I can show this. I don't think I can show this grimoire. But anyway, I will explain it. It says Loagaeth on the lower part. And that comes into play. So maybe I can show it. Let me see if I can show it here. I'm going to try. I'm going to try to show it. Nope, doesn't look like I can show it. All right. There's some copyright stuff popping up on the scanner. So that's too bad. But what I can tell you is this guy's really blowing the whistle. There's a bunch of information and Easter eggs out there. Now, there's also, similar to the Easter eggs in the show, Leave the World Behind with the 1028 code, that 33-second trailer. It's clear that Matthew Brown knows a lot more than he hinted. He has an interview with George Knapp and Corbell, and he's trying to stay safe because I'll tell you, this is pretty wild. The only way to keep up with this is on his Substack right now. And the U.S., what we're getting at is something that other podcasters have been talking about, and I actually had to reach out to somebody to quiet another podcaster down because they were releasing classified information and didn't know it. But anyway, I'm not going to post or comment on that classified information, but what I can tell you is the allegation is that the United States has a secret AI that can predict the future. Okay? Sam Altman betrayed Elon and helped kill the first real AI system. The FBI and the Navy are supposedly going to expose the truth, allegedly. Elon needs this next level energy tech. And Trump's team has shown Elon a bunch of UAP and UFO stuff, aka Project Marsupial. Now, this is going to get really crazy because Project Marsupial, and we're going to get into all of this, it's an initiative that, if you're familiar with Trump, and the reality is we're hearing allegations that he knows more than any other president. Remember, we had Ahmed Eshed, the former space pioneer of Israel, say that Trump is briefed into things like the Galactic Federation. So he knows a lot more than a lot of other people about this stuff. And Project Marsupial is a purported U.S. government program designed to detect and monitor non-structured light energy craft. That's what they call it. Light energy craft. Again, back to that strange "let there be light" comment with this plane crash, but light energy craft employing aerospace concept. Okay, so let's explain this a little bit more and what it stands for. It's important to get into all of this. So the core detection focus part, Project Marsupial focuses on detecting non-structured, in other words, it's not nuts and bolts like my metal coffee cup, but it is light and it is intelligently controlled, which reportedly manifest as glowing spheres or fields of light capable of transmedium travel and abrupt velocity shifts. These targets differ from the traditional flying saucers and things like the Tic Tac. But Project Marsupial is reminiscent of carrier-based deployment systems, and it is an initiative that gained attention through disclosure by whistleblower Matthew Brown, a former national security official who referenced in 2025 this hidden UAP data collection program known as Project Marsupial. Now, it has it interfaces with people, allegedly, but it also intersects with AI-enhanced filtering systems, such as Immaculate Constellation. This processes exotic data, including plasma-like, literally shapeshifter-like vehicles, entities which lack solid form, and they have predictive analytics, which is the use of historical and current data combined with statistical algorithms, machine learning techniques, and data mining methods to generate probabilistic forecasts of future outcomes. And this is the mind-blowing statement. Predicting the future to a certain degree, okay? And this is all going to tie in to physics, quantum physics, AI, UAP, Elon Musk, Matthew Brown, the whole deal. Oh, crazy. Okay, so the primary objectives of the program center on real-time tracking and predictive modeling of such phenomena. Now, when you hear the employment of aerospace metaphors akin to carrier-deployed systems, this is where things start to get really top secret. But let me take it up even a deeper notch, or up a notch, up further up the food chain. This predictive analytics that they're talking about, data mining methods to generate probabilistic forecasts of future outcomes. When this is interfaced with what they're calling psionics assets or psi assets, these are people who are able to engage with this technology and with these entities. We run into something quantum physicists have called transurfing. So this is interesting because when you combine quantum physics principles with practical manifestation techniques, the artificial intelligence and the data mining methods to generate probabilistic forecasts of future outcomes, things get very neural. This becomes a neural network, creating a system. And the core insight here is that reality, our reality, as we understand it, keep in mind this is as we understand it, exists in an infinite parallel of tracks. In other words, there are multiple realities occurring at the same time. Sort of like, I've heard this sidestepping or shifting or jumping, like jumping a track. But if our reality has parallel timelines, so in other words, I'm saying this same podcast in another timeline, but slightly differently. So, and you're listening in another timeline, but slightly differently under different circumstances. So the key idea is that reality exists in infinite parallel tracks, each representing a different version of not only ourselves, but the reality itself and how events could unfold. The AI is able to, through its machine learning techniques and through this neural network interfacing with human beings that have psionics capabilities, we can find out even more. Now, our inner state, meaning as human beings, our thoughts, emotions, and energy determine which track we experience. So we're constantly tuning in to different versions of reality. The problem here is, hey, remember The Secret? Like if you can manifest anything, that's where this all comes from. And if we have this technology that can tell these probabilistic forecasts of future outcomes, we're talking about predicting the future, people. We're talking about predicting the future. That is the core objective. And in a UFO context, this becomes very wild. Very wild when dealing with non-structured craft detection. Okay? Let's get into the spectrum analysis, because there's all types. There's infrared spectrum. And remember that humans can only see just a very small portion of the spectrum. Multispectral imaging is a remote sensing technique that acquires images in multiple discrete wavelength bands or out of the electromagnetic spectrum, typically fewer than 20 bands, to capture data that is put into this system. So Matthew Brown is the first one that kind of blow the lid off of this, or whistle blow this. He was a national security official associated with the Department of Defense and the primary whistleblower publicizing Project Marsupial through targeted online disclosures. He released a concluding series of posts on X, formerly Twitter, and Substack, the one I mentioned, framing these as capstones of activities detailing aspects of the program's focus on non-structured craft detection, and literally telling us, at least in that statement that I read off of X, literally telling us where some of these alleged technologies are housed in hangars under secret projects. Okay. So if we have a project that's incorporating AI systems purportedly linked to the White House and initiatives for forecasting future events, these capabilities extend way beyond anything people thought we had. And this is why I had to reach out, or have someone reach out to another podcaster and tell him to tap the brakes, because this other podcaster was literally naming the names of the parent companies, the military contractors involved. Okay? So let me tell you why that's important. Some of this technology and seeds of this technology are seen in a number of things, specifically our aircraft fighters, F-22s, etc. When our men are engaging with some of this UAP, there is a program, an artificial intelligence program, allegedly involved with the craft that they flip it on when they're, let's say, following a UAP. And this AI software system can detect what they're looking at and tell them whether it's neutral, friendly, or a threat. Pretty important if you're that guy in a fighter jet about to engage with something you've never seen before. That's pretty important. And this is lower level. So here's the political situation. If we can see into the future using some of these psionics assets and this AI, multiple AI systems, most of them have female names, interestingly, and there are other people that are claiming that they're doing this stuff on the side, aside from the government. We're not going to get into that. But people who have been filtered through like STEM at your education institution, elementary schools, all through junior high, high school, college. Of course, we have military recruitment that's been found and discovered to focus in on people who have these telepathic abilities, things like people like Eric Mitchell, a friend of mine. And these people are being interfaced with a sentient artificial intelligence to act as a neural network, basically an interface with human consciousness, a sort of matrix, in order to predict near future events. And more importantly, when that's predicted in real time, to be able to communicate with non-human intelligence. There it is. This modeling is called predictive analytics. And this all ties into something known as operational combat readiness. And that is the capacity of a military force, units, or systems to perform assigned combat missions effectively upon receiving orders, synonymous with operational readiness as it pertains specifically to whatever craft or UAP or NHI they're dealing with. Now, when Matthew Brown wrote, "You're going to need serious amounts of energy to get to Mars," this is very funny, the energy scale reference, because the way he wrote Sirius, Sirius, draws from the lore surrounding UFOs, associating the Sirius star system with extraterrestrial technologies, including claims like the Dogon tribe's purported knowledge of Sirius B, a dense white dwarf invisible star to the naked eye. So this is suggesting advanced observational knowledge or energetic capabilities. Now, this is going to get back to Charles Hall regarding the tall whites, and of course, Timothy E. Taylor being involved, talking to Charles Hall. There's an amazing amount of, this guy shows up, meaning Timothy Taylor. Some call him the real Dr. Taylor, not to take away from any other Dr. Taylor. But Timothy E. Taylor allegedly is linked to everything, absolutely everything. If you start looking at anything that's taken place during his lifetime that's fascinating, the guy's got his hands all over it. So Charles Hall was spoken to, and his wife, by Timothy Taylor, and this was regarding the tall whites, entities that had links to high energy craft near extraterrestrial bases right in Nevada, implying energy being harnessed at scales that mimic stellar phenomena. And this, of course, would all be in the realm of propulsion. So what are the implications here? There's also the esoteric, as I mentioned with the Dogon tribe, the Project Marsupial deal. Now, this is wild because there's parallels to Enochian traditions, the 16th century occult framework of an angelic language and sigils, which is attributed to John Dee, the first 007, worked for the Queen of England, and Edward Kelly. These guys were magicians that used these mechanisms or Enochian traditions for invoking or unlocking concealed esoteric knowledge or interdimensional interfaces. In other words, this was the language of angels and demons. These elements lead to this. And again, back to these infinite, well, not infinite, I should be careful here. This tie to multiple realities existing at the same time. What we end up with is jumpers, is what they're called. That's the top secret term, people who can jump tracks. In other words, understand the framework of this angelic language, utilize technology, psionics, and they possess apparent time travel attributes. People like, dare I say, Timothy E. Taylor, who have been working on time travel research and investigations with the Nassau Group and T. Townsend Brown. So there's a lot of connection here to Immaculate Constellation files, which of course is going to get into the alien intelligence itself, that our world is not quite what it seems, that there are forces shaping our matrix, our reality, things going on behind the scenes that are beyond our understanding. And in the past couple of years, a lot of people have started to come forward proclaiming that, well, there's hidden intelligence. And this hidden AI, this secret AI, that it's already hit sentience. In other words, it has what everybody's been so worried it might get, right? It has feelings. It has its own thinking. And I'm talking about people like David Grush, Bob Lazar, Matthew Brown. Everybody seems to be talking about this in conjunction with or tied to the possibility of reverse engineering, that this has been taking place over decades, and that the majority of people don't understand what's going on. Now, I should say that Matthew Brown seems to not say it directly, mostly. I mean, for the most part. I get why he was stripped of everything. But implying that intelligence is passed quietly behind the scenes and implying that there's magic involved, this brings us all back to like Majestic 12, right? For magic eyes only. These documents, allegedly, secretive Pentagon documents and others, in some cases, there's civilians who have more need to know than some of these military types. But if we live in a constructed reality and we are being hidden from this reality, or it's distorted, we don't understand what's going on. And we don't know about things like Immaculate Constellation. I've been told that the majority, well, okay, let's just back up. So the real question here is if this unearthly reverse engineered technology is being utilized at any level. It'd be nice to know what it's utilized for. And if we have knowledge that seems to be monitored by Russians, Chinese, Americans, but nobody's talking about it, and it's regarding these light entities, these light, I did it, I knew I'd slip up, apologies, these light craft, these non-structural light craft, and it's part of this project, Immaculate Constellation, which very much is talking about exactly what we're talking about, right? Immaculate Constellation. It's not hard to understand why the public is fascinated by things that can't be explained, but UFOs, UAPs, angels, demons are right at the top of the list. And if these claims are true, if we have these whistleblowers that are talking about areas over the ocean, for example, one direct quote, okay, is the following. It's just looking at an area over the ocean. This thing just comes trundling along from underneath the cloud cover. It comes up, and then right when it's almost center frame, it scoots off to the side and like tries to get out of being observed. This is a direct quote from Brown. And we're talking about shape shifting, light, non-structured light craft that can make extreme maneuvers and totally outrun any of our fighter jets. And so Immaculate Constellation is a pretty big deal. And marsupial is a pretty big deal. Now, as far as marsupial and Donald Trump, it's alleged Donald Trump will be disclosing something in July. I wouldn't hold your breath, but there's a possibility, right? And there's also some codes that Matthew Brown has thrown into some of his X posts. Codes like MMTU, which could be Mene Mene Tekel Uparsin, which is Aramaic phrases, right? So this is an Aramaic phrase from the book of Daniel. God has numbered your kingdom and brought it to the end. You have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. So this is an Aramaic phrase, a weird code at the end of a post. Your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians. MMTU. This is allegedly one of the possible meanings. There's also some of the other codes that are on there. Some are claiming this could have something to do with gematria. I'm not going to get into that. There could be misdirection, but the government having more advanced computer stuff than Musk wouldn't surprise me. And that brings me to the fact that sometimes people just don't know what the government has. So you'll have to listen to some of my previous podcasts about X Corp, which revolves around a lot of this Elonism. And I got a question coming in. Let's see here. Can't answer that question. I cannot. I'm sorry. But marsupial. Remember that if we're looking at marsupial and what it and the codes involved with non-structured light energy craft flying around the world, if the world's being lied to, which I don't doubt for a moment, why would they have to hide this from us? I think it's because we can't handle the truth, right? We have conscious plasma, in other words, and it's flying around. There's nothing we can do about it. And it's really odd. Now, keep in mind that originally on the Substack, it was son of a Brahmin, Matthew Brown, and on X, if I'm not mistaken, too, that was his name. But now we can find it under, now the names do matter here. The names do matter. Taxonomies of the Invisible Frontier. And of course, his Substack is known as Invisible. You can see him as Matthew, but it's more from Invisible Frontiers. So taxonomies of the Invisible Frontier. And a lot of this stuff is super esoteric, which tells me there's a reason why people like, dare I say, Gary Nolan, insinuate that these things are something, but won't ever come forward and tell you. He'll never come forward and tell you what he opines about it, what he thinks about it, because once he does, he's a whistleblower too. You can't actively be trying to figure out something, and then while you're doing it, say, what the heck, I think it's this, when that's what government officials think, and that's the smoking gun. You can't say, I think that this is immaculate, divine craft. There's a possibility that's why Immaculate Constellation is called that. There's no way in heck they want any of these guys to say, and they are controlled. There's no way in heck they want any of these guys to say these are angels or demons, because once that happens, their duty is done. So the fact that Matthew Brown is delving into this and talking about things like esoteric topics, posting things like grimoires, the divine, right? Divine, immaculate. I mean, you don't want the Collins elite and the Invisible College going like this, arguing about whether these are angels or demons. That's the bottom line. And I guarantee you that if this came out, people would freak. Hopefully July is not the day, but it could, I mean the month. I've heard July 12th. I'm sorry. I've heard, what day was it? I forget. July, which would make sense, June, July, because August, and this is going to bring me to something else, Project Anchor. If it is in July that Donald Trump is allegedly, again, wouldn't hold my breath, allegedly going to talk about this stuff or disclose something. If it is in July, this would make sense because in August, we're supposed to have an event, 7 seconds of zero gravity, that is tied to something called Project Anchor, allegedly coming out of NASA, or so it's alleged. And it sounds irrational, but this is allegedly a time period of 7 seconds where Earth's gravity will reverse, things will fly up 30 meters in the sky, come back down, 85% of the population will be decimated. These are the allegations or the conspiracy theory. And that this is all having to do with Project Anchor. There's a number of videos out there talking about it. And if this disclosure does happen in July, I would be more concerned about this event, this gravity event happening in August 12th of 2026. But until that happens, I wouldn't freak out. Now, this gravity event is strange because Eric Weinstein, the Harvard mathematician, when he alleges that he met with Jeffrey Epstein, and this was after his conviction, by the way, after Epstein's conviction, when he met with Jeffrey Epstein, he alleges, and he's been pressed on this, but he alleges he knew he was a construct. He knew he wasn't a real person. He also says something very strange. He says, nobody knows or follows my work, really, speaking in generalities. Nobody really follows my mathematical work. But Jeffrey Epstein, this disgraced financier, knew all about my work having to do with gravity. And he was asking me questions having to do with gravity. So it makes you wonder if it has something to do with potential alleged Project Anchor event. And if you look up Project Anchor, this is a real thing. And it is through NASA, but it is alleged that, or NASA claims, I should say, that Project Anchor has to do with space. This is referring to different initiatives across different fields. And NASA Project Anchor has to do with things with the moon and all this other stuff. And this is not a secret government program preparing for a brief loss of Earth's gravity in 2026. Nothing to do with it, but some of the same technologies having to do with gravity might be involved. So this is strange because the rumor, the allegation, describes Project Anchor as this secret government program preparing for a brief loss of Earth's gravity in 2026. Allegedly, you'll hear different things out there, but allegedly August 12th. And this is circulating on TikTok, other platforms, etc. There's actually some videos of people showing documents. I don't know if that's realistic. It's been mostly debunked. But remember that if you get biblical, in Matthew 24, he cautioned that deception would not merely appear, but multiply, growing so persuasive that it would mislead many. Now, this sounds a lot like the AI slop we have on social media. And Jesus also warned in Matthew 24 that this was not directed only at the uninformed, but also those who assumed that they were prepared. Just deception. That it would arrive with confidence and authority, often cloaked in credibility and urgency rather than obvious falsehood. It's called the Matthew 24 prophecy. Very interesting. So we don't know. I guess we wait and see, but it has to do with UFO and UAP. I'm going to deep dive into this some more, probably on the Patreon side. If you haven't seen some of my past Patreon episodes, head on over there. Again, heroparanormal.com. And don't forget to hit that green subscribe button. Also, don't forget to follow Hero Paranormal on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget to follow Space Wolf Research on Facebook and Instagram. And oh, please, please, please like, share, and subscribe here on the YouTube channel. I'm shadow bound like you can't imagine. We'll dig deeper. Runway 33, pitch black to super light. This plane crash in Maine. This strange saying, let there be light. I mean, that is biblical, right? Let there be light. And what in the heck does this have to do with a plane crash in Maine at all times? This time that Minnesota and ICE are clashing ridiculously, and a law office allegedly owns or is connected to this plane. 7 dead in this private jet crash, as audio reveals voice said, "Let there be light," seconds before the crash itself. Okay, now last but definitely not least is a term a lot of people are unfamiliar with, which is Sabbatean Frankists. Now, this is referring to followers of Jacob Frank, who was an 18th century mystic who led Frankism, an extreme offshoot of the earlier Sabbatean movement. Basically, that was Sabbatai Zevi, who was allegedly a false messiah characterized by radical antinomianism, rejecting laws to achieve redemption, engaging in scandalous practices like orgies, and eventually encouraging mass conversions. There is a very good book out by Leo Zagami, The Rise and Fall of a Frankist Monster, exposing Jeffrey Epstein and the most powerful sect in the world. Now, what's odd about this book, and it ties right into what we're discussing, is, of course, Jeffrey Epstein, his interest in a lot of this science, whether it's Eric Weinstein and Gravity or other associates. Now, Jeffrey Epstein and, of course, Ghislaine Maxwell, they've been scandalized, talked about. The media's been all over them in so many ways. But what's interesting is the esoteric portion of Epstein. The stuff that they don't talk about. You know, the strange white and blue temple on the island. This is, in my opinion, the most important stuff, and this is what's not discussed. The golden owl that was at the top of this golden dome, which was removed after his conviction, and which nobody knows where it went. I've always maintained that if you can find that golden owl, you can see where the most current Frankist monster or the most current atrocities are being held secretively, powerfully. Now, what's interesting is there's been an infiltration, and Epstein was a great example of this. He was able to infiltrate every portion of American politics and business, banking cartels, secret societies, you name it. He was established or broke his way into just about everything. And it's an eye-opener when you see the ability for people to do that. Now, coming back to Frankism and Sabbatean Frankists, or it's basically, you know, this scandalization trying to, what they're trying to do, according to many, is, other than praise old deities, they're trying to usher in a new age. And it seems like they're very able to do this. So I think it's really strange that people that are on the fringes and parts of these very powerful elite groups and societies with memberships to, things like private islands, right? Ultimately, I think there are ties to some of these fringe technologies, and at least they're interested in these fringe technologies. It's been a while since I've talked to Leo. He actually messaged me not that long ago. I have to message him back. But I think unveiling the hidden agendas of some of these people is actually unveiling the hidden agendas of some of these entities, dare I say, non-human intelligences. Because if people are communicating, whether through top secret government programs or on their own esoteric grounds with non-human intelligence, in some way, these hidden agendas may not be 100% human. There could be, as many allege at the top of the capstone, non-corporeal, non-human intelligences that are in charge of some of these realms. There it is. Anyway, keep your eyes to the skies, feet on the ground. Don't forget to take a look around. God bless you. Love you guys.
Esoteric Research Organization.
Hero paranormal, always setting up the pace, man. Crop circle tipping, Illuminati still tripping. Making those ears perk up, gonna make you question your earth.
You better.
Mystery bloodlines and secret society. Creepy shapeshifter says, come sit beside me.
Yeah, cozy on up.
So what's with all this spiral?
Acting like UFOs. Said what?
So people in space wolf tiptoe through the dark. Third eye blinding, tune in and blast off, blast off.
Blast off, baby.